Well, it appears the government has announced something which unfortunately could actually impact quite a lot of vulnerable people, because they've just banned something which unfortunately means could lead to much higher rents. Even though their intentions might be good in trying to help those vulnerable people, they've kind of, if anything, screwed them over. So what am I going on about then? Well, according to this, it says that landlords will be banned from demanding huge upfront fees from tenants in order to secure a home. So why have I got a problem with that then? Because let's face it, it's not very nice, is it, to have huge upfront fees, especially in the cost of living crisis. So what's my problem with it? Well, unfortunately, by doing that, landlords presumably won't be able to charge as much of a deposit as they need to cover any potential damage a tenant might cause, and therefore may, and I'm not saying this will happen, but it may mean that some landlords will take the position of, well, just put the rent up. Which, let's face it, is the last thing we need. With the P taken away, the rents keep rising at the moment, eh? But Housing Secretary Angela Rayner will make it illegal for residents to be charged several months' rent in advance in order to secure a home. The Renters' Rights Bill, will currently making its way through Parliament, will cap the amount a landlord or agency can charge before moving in at 1 month's rent. I personally think several months' rent, or being charged, several months' rent in advance was P taken anyway. And yes, I can see why she's doing that. However, I think to cap at 1 month's rent, dependent of course on the type of tenant you have, and landlords unfortunately sometimes do need to be careful about these sort of things, that might be a bit too low. I think about 6 weeks' rent is probably the sweet spot. But yes, definitely several months is P taken, because let's face it, you can't tar all tenants with the same brush now, can you? But anyway, responding to the change, Tom Darling, the director of the Renters Reform Coalition, said, "For far too long, extortionate rent in advance demands have allowed landlords to discriminate against poor renters. It's great the government has acted on this and listened to renter groups by setting out clearly that this practice will be prohibited. And the ban on huge upfront fees comes after 30 MPs, led by Labour's Alex Sobel, demanded a crackdown." According to Shelter as well, more than 800,000 private renters have been unable to rent a home in the last 5 years because they couldn't afford advance payments. It just makes me wonder, could it be that the government is trying to help out the poorest, such as homeless or people on benefits, or could it possibly potentially be, and call me a cynic if you like, but could it potentially be because, I don't know, there's boatloads of potential future Labour voters coming over every day with all the illegal boat people coming from the safe country of France, and obviously they need a home, and presumably if there's much higher deposits, then it's surely going to cost the government much more than if there are far lower deposits than what there is now, eh? I'm just wondering if that might be the real reason behind this, although admittedly I could be wrong. And it doesn't look like I'm alone with what I was thinking earlier, because it says that today landlord groups insisted that the move could backfire and harm vulnerable tenants. And that is because Chris Norris, the policy director of National Resident Landlords Association, said restricting rent in advance combined with freezing housing benefit rates and not enough rental housing to meet demand is creating significant barriers for those with poor or no credit histories needing to access the sector. This includes international students and those employed on short-term or variable basis with an income which fluctuates. The government is cutting off any assurance responsible landlords might seek when renting to those who cannot easily prove their ability to sustain tenancies and pay their rents. Alongside capping upfront costs, the Renters' Rights Bill has banned the hated Section 21 no-fault evictions, meaning of course that landlords will be prevented from booting tenants out of their homes without giving a reason, such as wanting to sell or move into the house themselves. And yes and no, it can't exactly be very nice for someone to get a no-fault eviction. However, what if you need to take the house back for another reason instead, such as your son or daughter has just reached 18, so you want to give them a good start and let them have a house for themselves? I'm guessing with this ban you will no longer be able to do that. Although admittedly I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.